everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be dialing in from around the world. Thank you all for joining and spending the next hour with us for today's webinar, Incident Response Retainer Services, Responding to the Scene of the Crime, presented by IT Novarica Group. I'm Caitlin Labby, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. We'll be starting the webinar shortly, but first, let me just cover a few quick housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be recorded, and a link to view the recording on demand will be available after the session. We will also be taking questions at the end of the webinar, so please feel free to submit your questions using the questions feature located in the GoToWebinar toolbar to the right of your screen. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. Tari Schreider is a strategic advisor at IT Novarica Group, specializing in cybersecurity, privacy, and IT risk. He lives in metropolitan Atlanta and brings more than 40 years of security, privacy, and recovery management to IT Novarica Group. Tari is an author of top-rated cybersecurity architecture and law books and is a master instructor of Chief Information Security Officer certification courses. He is a co-author of a U.S. patent titled Method for Analyzing Risk, and he has designed security operations centers, was responsible for creating the first information sharing and analysis center in collaboration with the Information Technology Association of America, and has created complex cybersecurity programs in many industries and international locations. Tari is also a member of the Writers Board for CISO Mag. So without further ado, I'll turn the mic over now to Tari. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy today's webinar.
Thank you, Caitlin, and I'll do my Truman welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for wherever you're at. I'm particularly excited about this report that I worked on last year because it was part of a two-pronged report on incident response. And this particular report was one of the most frequently asked questions that I get as a strategic advisor here at IT Novarica. So the impact report presents a view of the incident response market from a retainer perspective and solutions that are available to financial service firms or any other firms that would want to avail themselves of being able to have somebody respond to the scene of the crime. The incident response services presented within this report have proven to reduce a cyber attack's business and operational impacts. And that's actually what it's all about. We live in an assumption of breach world. Certainly headlines of late have proven to us that we can never let our guard down. And I think that, from my perspective, and I know you've all heard this before, there are two types of organizations in the world today: those that have been hacked and those that are in the process of being hacked and don't already know it. It is just a matter of time. So the world in which we live in today is one where we have to assume we're not impenetrable. We can be a little chip proof, but at the end of the day, whether it's insider or an outsider, somebody's going to get in, and we have to plan for that. So I believe that investments made in incident response, because of the assumption of breach world we live in, are particularly wise. So an incident response retainer, for those of you that aren't that familiar with it, it's very similar to an information technology hot site agreement, where standby computer power is reserved for organizations to access at the time of some catastrophic event. Contractually, they look to be very much the same. And you'll see when we go through the structure of an incident response retainer program, you'll see that many of the same contractual attributes exist between both of them. The big difference is that at the time of a sort of a computer or data center disaster, you usually go to a hot site, unless you got a mobile site and it's coming to you, but for the most part, you go to it. But here, the incident responders, they come to you. Now, one of the reasons why we've seen such substantial growth in incident response solutions, and particularly retainer programs, is that it's costly to deploy your own staff, fund them, train them, keep them basically off the production line of day-to-day cybersecurity activities so they can actually perfect their craft. So and also we all know about the industry-wide staff shortages. So it's very challenging to create our own fully dedicated internal incident response program.